Hello and welcome to Your Abundance podcast. I'm your host, Eiran Trethowan, and today I have an exciting guest, not some exciting guest, an exciting guest who I absolutely adore and love dearly. And I'm very excited to introduce to you today Kimberly Rose. Kimberly is the founder of UMIYA. She is a herbalist, a nutritionist, Chinese medicine practitioner. She works with flower essences, and she's a coach and intuitive, just to tick some more boxes in her worlds. And she's coming here today to talk about her abundance journey. She's just launched UMIYA, her business. So we're going to learn a little bit about that. And she is also one of my clients, which is really beautiful. And I love that. And I love that I get to share my world with my clients as well. And so welcome, Kimberly. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you. It was so nice to be here. It's going to be so fun.
Yes.
Woo.
Let's get started. So, welcome to Your Abundance podcast, because your abundance is literally why we're all here. We're here to create a better world, a better universe, and to live abundantly ourselves. And so, I want to ask you to straight up, I usually ask a little bit about your journey and how you got here and what your abundance journey has been like personally. And you've just launched UMIYA, which we're going to get to, but a little bit about your background. I'd love to hear about it. Let me know.
Okay, sure. So this is a question I get asked all the time. And how did I end up in Chinese medicine and doing acupuncture? To be quite honest with you, I really feel like I didn't necessarily choose this path. I feel like this path really chose me. I started off in natural medicine school, mostly studying like herbal medicine and nutrition. This was back in Canada. And I did some practicum hours for that program with an acupuncturist, and I got introduced to Chinese herbal medicine because there was just a strong focus on the herbal component. So really my access into Chinese medicine was more through the herb side of things. And then I did do a few practicum hours with this acupuncturist. And it was funny. She told me, she's like, you should come to my acupuncture school. She was opening up a school in Canada. And I was like, no, nobody's going to want to get acupuncture from a non-Chinese person. Like at that time in my consciousness, that was like, why would you do that? This Chinese medicine. So anyways, I ended up after I finished that program in Calgary, I moved to Maui. And I met a Chinese physician there who just so happened he was looking for kind of an assistant in his clinic. And he liked that I knew about the herbs. He offered me the position and he took me under his wing and started training me in acupuncture and Tai Chi and Qigong. And I started seeing patients that would come to his clinic that sometimes were given 6 months to live and told from Western med community that there was not anything left that they could do. And a year and a half later, 2 years later, these people are still coming and their lives has turned around. It's like, this is incredible. So I did stay in Maui. I worked with him for about 2.5 years. And then I just decided I needed to go and do this for myself. And I got my master's degree on Oahu. So got to stay in Hawaii, a different island.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just never really looked back. And it's been definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made, and has opened up this abundance of like travel, of meeting all different walks of life, and just doing my soul's calling of just being of service and just helping in any way I can for the people that I cross paths with. Yeah.
Did you have health yourself, like health issues yourself at all in your journey, or was it just more that you were introduced to it in this way?
Yeah, knock on wood, I've actually had a pretty clean bill of health for sure, which I feel very grateful for. My dad's a psychologist, and there's a number of doctors in my family. So I always knew since I was little that I wanted to be some sort of doctor. I was a bit of a hippie growing up, so I was really into herbs and more natural remedies. So I really didn't want to go down the Western med path of prescription and surgery. That just really, I feel like I've always known don't get me wrong. I thank God we have those things. And of course, there's a time and place for them. But I think for the majority of lifestyle and these kind of chronic debilitating diseases that we're seeing more and more of, there's just so many better options than,
Yeah,
you
I
know, take
agree
this
with
pill
that.
for the rest of your
There,
life. Yeah,
Western medicine has a place. Everything has a place. I think
sure.
my first Chinese medicine practitioner taught me that in conversation about, yes, sometimes you need to take the Panadol kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, and so it was because you can get an aversion to the different sides
Hmm.
of the coin, and really they're all inclusive. You need them all a lot of the time. I think a lot of my health practitioners over the years, one of the major ones, he was a GP and a Chinese medicine practitioner. So he was both.
Brilliant.
And it's that combination, I think, as well as understanding that sometimes the Western isn't going to the root cause. It's just, we need to get rid
Exactly.
of this, or we need to cut this open, or it's like solving it, already gone, it's gone through. Whereas a lot of the other stuff goes back into, where did this begin and how did it, and it's energy focused, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
other aspects, which I think for any kind of health recovery, to be honest, because I personally have had those journeys myself,
Mm,
that you do need to have more than one option a lot of the
yes,
time.
absolutely.
And it does
Yeah.
take a few things to do
Hmm.
the one job,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is amazing. And so how long have you been that Chinese medicine practitioner for?
About I graduated 2014, so 10 years as a
Wow.
licensed practitioner, but you
Yeah.
start training obviously right off the get-go. And yeah.
Yeah, years. I think I've got friends and I've had clients previously who are years and years training in Chinese medicine. So the reason I asked that question was just a bit of a strange. You're probably like, why is she asking me that? Well, it's because your journey as the practitioner, I feel like UMIYA, it's pronounced
Hmm.
UMIYA, and it's spelled UMIYA. Everyone who's listening was born from this, like from your learnings of Chinese medicine.
Hmm.
And you've recently launched it. It's been in the making though for those 10 years, I would say. Probably
Yes.
longer than the 10 years.
Longer than that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been and I work with soul-led business entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
And so I can very much say that I know that it's something that was coming out of you no matter what. And it was just shifting a few things out of the way to get that launch to, and you've
So
been,
I was actually I was working and I still am. It's something that I will eventually put out there on a book around menopause for women from a Chinese medicine perspective.
oh,
So required. So I was menopause is not, how do you make menopause sound nice? So I was all this
just put the word
AI stuff
Perry
came
in
out and I was
front of
like,
it.
quite yeah, that's yeah. So I was looking for a unique sort of title for this book. And I was playing around with AI, and because they come up with these really cool names. And I don't know why, when I saw the word UMIYA, I was like, something in my body was like, I loved the way it looked. I loved the way it sounded. And me with my G Center authority in human design, but I knew I did try to play with it for my menopause book title. And then it just shifted and it was like, no, this is going to be like my business. And it's actually an acronym, the UMIYA. So
Yeah.
the U stands for unite, the M stands for magnetize, the I is inspire, the Y is yin, and the A is awaken. So those are like these five words to me that really represented. I wanted something that tied in like the feminine energetics and just this whole. Anyway, those words came first, and then I was on a boat ride I'm living in Bali now. I was in North Bali, and I
I
was
can
on a
see you're
boat, and
not in Canada.
yeah, I was sitting on the edge of the boat. You know, you can go up to the center, and I just had my legs dangling, and it was just a stunning day. And I was like, how can I fit this UMIYA into the five elements of Chinese medicine? And it was like this kind of shape, like dropped. It's so weird. You understand energy,
Yeah.
so you probably know what I'm saying, but it just spiraled down and in, and it was like, how did I not see this before? So the unite is about the heart, and uniting the heart in Chinese medicine is like the seat of your Shen and your spirit. and about like joy and emotional balance. And for me, uniting with that part of yourself and your heart and your deepest calling is really where the journey needs to begin. And then from there, we move on to the earth. I don't know if you, I'm sure you do know the five elements, but for the listeners, there's a generating cycle that happens. So from fire, we go to earth, which is magnetize, which is about magnetizing definitely like the elements of the food and nutrition out of the food, but also magnetizing the life that you are really drawn to create towards you. And then continuing on in the cycle is the metal element, which is about ruled by the lungs and inspiration. And like in spiritus is to breathe and to like breathe inspiration into yourself, but then also to inspire others, because this is a journey of community and sisterhood and coming together and keeping people inspired in that way. And then we move on to the water, which is yin, right? Which is stands for yin in UMIYA, which is all about this like femininity and the fluidity and the hormonal balance and just intuition and really tapping into the more kind of feminine energetics. And then from there, we move on to the wood, which is awaken, which is like that springtime when those buds are like bursting through the soil and you just come awake. And so it's not necessarily a linear progression, because once you go around once, then you can hop back in to unite again, because obviously things are constantly shifting and shaping. So it's more of a spiraling effect that we run through this. So it's like a never ending, beautiful, as is nature. And
it's so funny when you were describing it to me just then, or even at the start when you said you were sitting there and this energy kind of came down and all I saw was DNA.
Yeah.
The spiral of the DNA, and I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah, me too.
It's all down my it's all over my, but yeah, the DNA. And look, that's literally what it is. It's your blueprint, your cellular blueprint, but like that combination, the DNA is so connected to the energetics, to the universe, to the planet, like all the elements that you've brought together. Like it just, that's divinity, right? So it's all, and I love the wood aspect. I was like, when you went in the water, I was like, oh, me in the water, because I'm a water sign, so I'm the Scorpio. But like all the energies have a place. I think that I love that. So I interrupted a little because I got a bit excited about the DNA, but how did you then move into where that was going? So you've come up with this concept, you've got the energies of
this is actually a big part of where you came in, because I think even when I was looking for you, I was like, I have a big vision and there's so many components that I can add to this and tools. So I also teach meditation and I do different breath work and qigong, and it's all there and it's all able to be given, but I was getting overwhelmed and stuck in the minutia of just how am I going to bring this down and ground it in a way that I can then deliver it. And to be honest with you, that is still a part of my journey, but I think something else you've really helped you with is just taking the step.
It started because it is such a big, like the vision is big, and I love that for you. And it's always the steps to get the bigger vision is really, that's part of the process, the journey, the evolving, the parts that you put out as you move, and the customers that come in the beginning to the ones who come in later. Like it's really a unique and dynamic way. And I think because of my systems thinking, like it just didn't, like I was just like, yeah, that makes sense to me, like how it's going to unfold. So it happens often with people. They're like, I've got an idea, and I'm like, I can see, it's okay, we're good to go.
So, and that really helped me to be like, okay, this isn't crazy, this is actually doable. And then also looking more into like my human design and projector, and knowing that this lifetime for me is about mastery and mastering this kind of elements of bringing things all together in a way that people can grasp and understand and is tangible, and that can actually work for them and for their own transformation, I think is part of my gift.
The first element you're bringing out into the world is fire. Is that correct?
Unite.
Unite. It's funny. Unite is very much about, look, I think that's the transcendent energy we're in, to be honest. Like it's interesting that that's the one you're bringing out first, because I feel like the up level, even my own of recent times is like I've always worked around being beyond duality, and that is that union energy. But union in the self is the most, like in union with God,
Yeah.
like in union with the divine. Like you can easily get caught up in the masculine, feminine idea of this is a couple, or this is the energies of yin and yang coming together. And look, to be honest, yin and yang is earth and heaven.
Heaven,
You're
yeah,
bringing
sure.
them together. So that union
Yeah.
first almost is the most important, is that oneness. And so tell me more
Yeah,
about that and why you chose to bring that up first.
so that just makes the most sense to me. So it's interesting because when with my clients, I draw out the 5 elements for them, and I always start with fire at the top. Always. I have done. That's how I learned it. But there's other people that don't do that. And I'll see 5 elements and like the woods at the top. And I'm just like, oh, it's totally fine. It doesn't necessarily matter when you come in, but it just,
like,
in my
system,
system, and it just like rattles like, wow, no, it's got like fire's got to be at the top. And I think for me and my journey is like that uniting with my dream and my vision and believing in that and knowing what I can do and looking back and realizing that I've always done that. I remember when I graduated Chinese medicine school, and I love my dad dearly. And he was like, oh, you got to stay in one place and you got to set up a practice and you can't go off travel. What are you doing going traveling? I was like, no. And I got a job on cruise ships. It was amazing. I literally traveled the globe. I've like circumnavigated the globe. I don't know how many times. It was the best, most beautiful. And I didn't know that this was even an option when I started Chinese medicine school, that you could get a gig on a cruise ship. And at first I was like, oh, I don't want to work on a cruise ship. And then actually, the more I thought about it, I had a teacher that did it in school, and he was like, actually, it was one of the best things he ever did. And I have to say, for me in my profession, especially coming out of grad school, to get your feet off the ground and have a thriving practice, it can take years. And in the first week, I was like fully booked on this cruise ship. I was like, oh my God.
And people know you all over the world.
Yeah, I have clients.
Like it's such a really good networking tool.
And I was forced to talk about it and to sell it, and to like, I had so many consultations. Not all of those obviously converted into paying patients, but I wasn't selling anything I didn't believe in. And it was practice, and it was like hands-on and pulses and looking at tongues, and it was the best thing I could have done.
My tongue. I still look at my tongue. I always look at my tongue going, you're a bit dehydrated, Eiran. Drink some more water. I'll constantly say that. It's got the little thing on the side, the wrinkles. I'm like, drink some more water, Eiran.
Yeah. And now I transitioned from sea onto land, but now I work in luxury hotels, and that's also been just fantastic. I'm still very busy. I have obviously other responsibilities now, but I absolutely love it. And the dream, I think also the dream is always growing and shifting. And that what I set out to do. And now it's, okay, I really want that freedom, that like location freedom. Obviously, I'm going to be here at my current position for the foreseeable future, but there will be a time when I'm going to graduate from that, and then I can do more like online work, maybe like retreats and whatnot that we've spoken about. But yeah, I think back to the uniting, and not, there were times where I doubted that, that calling, and if it was possible, and oh, maybe I do need to stay here, and where, like, that's just not, I'm not somebody who's ever going to live in one place for an extended period of time. It's just not who I am. I love Bali. It will definitely be my home base for a while, maybe in conjunction with other places. But I think really getting in touch with your heart and your emotions and what brings you joy is the most important thing. And it really needs to be the start of every journey, because if you don't do that, then you're chasing somebody else's dream, when you're going down somebody else's path.
The heart is definitely.
Yeah.
So tell the audience as well, I think that's really important. Like, you're talking about doing a chart. So you're reading and you're putting the fire at the top. This is the head of your heart is really your head,
the
right?
star. So it makes,
it's a star. Yeah. Okay. And
it makes
if you went, that's the top and that's the head. And we always talk about the heart being here, but really the heart, if you're letting it lead, it is its own mind. But tell me a little bit more, if I was to come to you, and you can use me as an example if you need to, how would that work? Like, I come to you, I'm wanting a consult, I want you to vibe me and tell me what's happening. Why would I come to you?
So it would be slightly different, obviously, on my online, which is what, most of the audience would be coming to me for, would be, I would have a call with them first and really see what is it that they're wanting to work on in their life. And From there, obviously, I'll know like the direction we want to go. Obviously, I'm not going to be feeling your pulse. I may look at somebody's tongue over Zoom or something just to get an idea for what might be going on if it's more like health related stuff that people are coming to me for. But I'm also seeing more and more people just even at the hotel that are really seeking this more like spiritual guidance. So I might have a look at the human design. I might do like a card reading for them. So really, I think that's where the intuitive aspect comes in, is that what I feel intuitively called to do for the guest, which might be different from guest to guest, is really the avenue that I go down.
Yeah. So depending on what presents really with the
Exactly.
fire element and
Yeah.
where you head.
So from there, yeah, of course, we would be talking about their goals, their aspirations, what really makes them tick. And some people really don't have those, which is quite sad. And I think we've all had them. We all had them when we were kids. But I just did a post on this on Instagram, is that sometimes those dreams like fall asleep from life happening to us, and we really need to reawaken them. And so we might do some work around that, some journaling prompts to get things going, maybe guided meditation to help reawaken this thing. Obviously, I think if people are drawn to work with me at all, there's something in them that knows that this is a connection that will benefit them. I think it's similar with your work, that if like people reach out to you, that they might not be consciously aware of it, but that there is that kind of soul connection where it's okay, this person can help me.
I literally just did an Instagram live about resonance and turning people pleasing into superpower, is that you resonate. And so the resonance is very quick with clients, usually because of that reason, because the client is also resonant. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, if you're both in that similar energies, the resonance is very quick. And so, yep, sign me up.
And I think just on that note, I think if I meet somebody and I have a consultation with them and I think energetically, I just think I might not be the best person for you to work through this, whatever they're wanting. And I have no shame in saying that, because I think if it's not right for me, if it doesn't feel right for me, then on some level it's not right for them. And it's not like they're a bad person whatsoever. It's just that the energetics might not be there. And I think it's okay to honor that. And then I might say, oh, you might want to look down this avenue of somebody with a different skill set than what I have.
We're very similar in that sense, because I'm exactly the same. And you could look at it as sales prevention. In a sales process, you need to have sales prevention, which is, it actually stops a lot of if you went down the path and not listening to that prevention in energy, you end up with a disgruntled client, and you're also resentful, and there's things that happen that don't need to happen. If you're honest and say, actually, I don't think this is the right path for you, hey, go and talk to Kimberly, or you'd say go talk to Eiran, or go talk to a different kind of practitioner. Or like in the past, I've had many phone calls when I used to do in person with people, and I'd be like, I don't think I'm the one for you right now. Like it's something else. So an understanding that's completely okay. And it actually makes the nuance powerful when they are resonant. Do you know what I mean? Like when you and I met, I think we were in a similar group together, and I saw your post. So I was like, yeah, I do this. It was just pretty much like my energy was like, yeah, just let you know that I do that. And we're like, yeah, let's make a time. And on the call, we're like, yep, this is good. I'm like, you sure you don't need some more time with your projector time, or do you need any more time? And I'm like, okay, that's good. That you can really tell, because it's soul driven as well. Like we pretty much majority of my clients there's a soul resonance. Like that's what you're really tapping into, that level of, hey, we're connected on a level that is not explainable, which is that ineffable thing. Like I always talk about, it's the words, there's no words to say, yeah, we just get it. And we get the energies just happening between us.
Yeah.
I think it's very powerful, but it's also just as powerful to say no and say, that's not for you, or that's not the process moving forward, or whatever. And I always feel deeply as well, like you, to suggest, like I'm very rarely would I leave someone hanging going, I'm not for you, see you later, that's it. You know what I mean? Like I always get some guidance anyway for them. Like it could be,
of course,
the next steps that I would see for you if you'd like to take them with this person, or go call this person, or whatever. I think I had a man end of last year contacted me and I was like, actually, my coach from 7 years ago would be really good for you right now. You know what I mean? It's just one of those
Yeah.
random,
And I
random
think
conversations.
I do think that there's always, I think as I don't like the word healer, but as a practitioner, even if we tap in and we're like, okay, this might not be the right fit. I've never been in a situation where it's like where I haven't known, even if it's something like you just said from 7 years ago, it's, oh, like something will just
Yeah.
drop through where I was just like, I know I might not be the one, but I definitely know somebody you could at least try, or an
Well,
avenue you can at least try, right?
it's interesting because you are the one in a way. You're just not the one that they're
Sure.
signing up and doing the work, or the one that needs
Yeah.
to tell them, hey, go here.
The
You know what I mean?
signpost.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
like the
exactly. Yeah,
signpost
no,
along the
that's
way.
true.
So I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
I did hear you just slightly say you don't like the word healer. I'd love to just delve a little bit. Like, where does that come from
It's
in you? Is that because of
um
we're not really the healer and it's coming through, or is that?
I think because I think healing is it's an inside job and it comes from within oneself. I think people can be like guides for sure. But I think at the end of the day, it's really the individual that is their own healer. So I live I'm very close to Ubud in Bali, and we got all kinds of these healers, and it's just I don't know. I think I really come from the place with my clients that like they're not broken, that they don't necessarily need to fix anything. Nothing's wrong with them. We just need to maybe peel back some layers and dive a bit deeper to see what is really going on. But I don't, I cringe when I hear certain people say is you need to fix this and you need to like, if we're not broken at all. And I think the more you tell somebody that they are broken, something's really wrong with them, that we're in trouble. That's a slippery slope for me. So I like to honor that. Obviously, people are at a certain place on their journey and are maybe seeking help and feel like a lot of things might be quote unquote wrong in their lives, but to change that perspective and say, a lot of it, especially pain, is very often like this, that it drives us to this point in ourselves where then we can really make that shift and awaken, and which might not have happened if we never had that pain or that situation or that person in our lives to reflect that back to us.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think we don't have a lot of people necessarily talking about it in that way, that we get stuck pointing fingers or something's wrong with me, I'm broken. And that breaks my heart really when I'm like, no, like,
No, yeah.
okay, you're human. We all make mistakes. We're this life is not necessarily easy. It can be beautiful and abundant, of course, but it's not always easy. It's not a cakewalk the whole time. There's going to be ebbs and flows, and yeah.
And your personal journey to with abundance, because this is obviously your abundance
Hmm.
podcast.
Yeah.
How's that integrated, obviously, with this launch and this business that's deeply rising up out of you, which is
Yeah.
beautiful. But your personal journey with abundance and how you are where you are right now and what that means to you. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, and you've really helped with this too, is just recognizing and giving some credit where credit is due. I think gratitude is a huge, I probably sound like a broken record, but to be grateful for what you already have in your life and to really, I think about like where, like for my life now and like where I live, and it was my dream. I'm like, oh my God, if I could live in Bali, oh, it'd be so cool. And now it's here. And I literally work at one of the most beautiful properties on the island, if not in the world. And I have moments of just pure, just awe. And I'll be like overtaken sometimes of just being so grateful for my life and this existence. And I think the more I tune into that, obviously, again, back to visions growing. Now, yeah, I live in Bali. It's great. Okay, tick that off the box. But now there's something else that I'm trying to create and getting more into like abundance and financial freedom and all of this kind of, not that abundance is just about finances, but I think it's an aspect that can really help the journey. And just recognizing that it's been a progression since for decades, really. And to not realize, oh, I don't have that was millions in the bank or whatever yet. And that's not the goal, really. And to be grateful for the journey and to realize like how far you've come. And that just keeps growing, and that is allowed to keep growing. I don't think I'll ever get one place and be like, yeah, okay, I'm done. If you do, I think you're probably on to what's next after this life, right? Like
Yeah, I
we're
don't think
always going to
there's really
have
an
these
I'm done energy.
desires.
It's that
Yeah.
even this morning, one of my teachings this morning in shifts was it's allowed to get better
Yeah.
and keep getting better. It's allowed.
And the best
You're
is
allowed
yet
to
to
get better
come.
and you're allowed to keep getting better and it's allowed
Yeah.
to get better and better. I think it's a really good
Yeah. And
mantra to have.
yeah. And what's the opposite is that you just live this life in plateau and then you're like, that's not living to me.
Oh,
Maybe
it's
if
not
that
might
is
not
to
even be
people is
plateau.
like,
It might be like, yeah, like
right.
the lower.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Instead of getting better, it gets
Yeah.
worse. Like Plateau is interesting because it's like an even keel almost. A lot of people hang out in Plateau. Like they don't
Mm,
allow themselves to have those shifts of energy that go up and down. And in the duality we live in, there is this idea of it can get better, but it could get worse. You know what I mean? Like you can
hmm.
easily find the lack. You can easily look for it got worse before, so why would it get better now? And we can easily
Yeah.
shift in between what we think's already happened to where it could go. But then there's also that element of giving yourself permission to have better and be better and feel better and
Hmm.
behave better and act better. And we can always, I want to say improve, but, and I want to just step back into what you said before, but there's nothing wrong. When I look at people and I'm like, let's go the next level, there's nothing wrong with the level you're at unless you're feeling
Right.
like really crap and you're like not great. But when you start to get on a trajectory of higher vibration, you don't need to get back down the bottom to keep lifting up the vibration. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
understanding we're allowed to feel good and feel even better and feel even better and feel even better rather than
Yes.
it has to do this kind of dance. You know what I mean?
And I think we're also allowed to be content with where we are and not, I think it's an energetic thing. Some people are like they're very happy and they're peaceful. Everything's great. Great. It's not to say that you have to keep going. If that's not a drive within you that you have, then by all means, just yeah, put your feet up and relax. But I think, especially for me, I know that there's more. There's a call. Something is calling more out of me
Yeah.
to be of reach a wider audience, be of a bigger service, and yeah. So that's it. So
I was
that's
talking
the
about
plan.
this from a wealth perspective as well. Like I think I posted a reel yesterday about it. It was just saying that this year I launched in with I want to make $1 million this year. Like the
Hmm.
distance between where I was at to that is big, right? But the
Yeah.
reality is if I don't own the number and I don't own the number is more than just the number. It
Mm,
wasn't really about making $1 million in a year, although that is the byproduct that I'm calling in at the same time. It
right.
was the impact of 1 million people, the impact of a
Mm,
million times the energy. There's so many angles that you could look at that number. And it was really about the expansion the number gave me because I worked with millions and millions of dollars previously in my corporate career.
hmm.
$1 million to me was like, oh yeah. Do you know what I mean? And it
Yeah.
sounds so, even though I didn't have $1 million, it still was a bit, oh yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, oh, let's make $50,000 this month. I'd be like, yeah, pretty much done that somewhere else. Not for me personally, but for someone else. You know,
Yeah.
like it didn't have the nuance to get me to raise my vibration into a
Mm,
new level of consciousness. So sometimes, like calling in the wealth, and we talk about it's a calling, and I actually said this in the reel, it's like
hmm.
there's a call. It's not like I need to make money to make a living. It's I'm
Mm,
called to this number of like revenue. I'm called to this energy of impact. I'm called to make greater change in the world. But at the same
hmm.
time, in my live this morning, I was like, hey, if this impacts one person in a million, do you know what I mean? One person in the
Yeah.
billions of people in the world, that is just as important. And that's great. And even if it was just me that got to change because and no one ever saw that thing that I put out in the
And it's
world,
still enough.
then it's
Hmm.
still enough. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, so it's not saying I'm not good enough if I'm not there yet, or I failed because I'm not at that number yet. It's saying
Hmm.
that the whole path, which is the same thing about the whole journey from launching UMIYA, the fire aspects, then the next elements that you're going to be
Yeah.
bringing out and how you're going to bring that into the world and how that ties together for each of your clients and customers, and how that then expands this step. And that's where people come to me, is that you, like you said, oh my God, this is overwhelming and big. So, yeah, but we just put in front of the other, you know, but also what's the important step in front of the other? Because we can get
And
caught.
I think getting really clear on the why birth UMIYA in the first place. And my why is to be of service, because I want to help. And like you said, if that's just one person, then great, it'll have been totally worth it. And I think there is still this programs. I got so hung up. I want to create these programs. And you were just always, the programs will come. And they're coming. They're downloading every day. And I think it's not getting out of it's not, again, because I can be a bit of a perfectionist as well, and getting out of that, I don't have everything done, so therefore I can't even get started. That was really what was like holding me back, is I can get started. I can put out posts on Instagram, I can get my website, I can start working like one-on-one coaching before I really get these, because the programs are going to be amazing, and they're going to be it's going to take a lot of my time, and I'm working on them, but I can't wait to start helping until these programs are done. Because yeah.
And the other thing is, everything, like any child who's born, their birth time is their birth time. It's aligned, no matter what. The business's birth time, it was aligned. So back here would have been shoving you along to certain points to go, actually, the birth time is like on the 1st of July, 2024. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, like how it evolves. And I think because the business has a soul and you have a soul, and the programs have a soul. So I learned that a lot through It's Your Destiny, moving from a program to a membership. Like you were like, oh man, I want to get the programs out. And I was like, it takes time. And I said, but it doesn't. It's still doing the work. Like, I've released the program so many times, and then all the content is now in the membership. Like it's like moving into what it wants to be. I'm the facilitator of it almost. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what we're bringing those soul things out in the world. There was a question I always heard. I'm trying to think. I can't remember right now who said it, but it was, I think it might have been, funny enough, Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. Right?
Yes.
She wrote a book called Big Magic, and I think it was in there where she says an idea can come. There's ones that come through you, and you just know you're the one who's bringing it out in the world, and there'll be a love-hate relationship with it also, because there's, you know, the ups and downs and all the things. And there's the grappling of, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Like, how do I do it? When do I do it? What should I do? You know, that starts to build momentum, right? But she talks about, and I'm pretty sure it was her, but I may have heard it in other places, ideas come in. Actually, I did hear it somewhere else. There's a guy called Marketing for Hippies, and he says it in this way. He says, she talks about how ideas come in, and like, she was writing this book, and how she wrote all these things about this book, and then put it in a drawer and couldn't write anymore. And she's like, I don't really write anymore. I'm really not loving this book anymore. Like, it's not where I want to be. And literally, one of her friends, this acquaintance, associates, through her book, whatever it was, literally picked up the book, but wrote it from where she left off. Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, energetically, it just happened. There was no conversation. And then when they were having a conversation, it was like, oh, this happened. I'm pretty sure that was her. But he says, like, the ideas, and I've taught creatives with this idea as well, that it comes in, and you choose now at this point, do I want to see it in the world? Because you even thinking about an idea brings it into the world. Like, your contribution. It's like when people go, oh, I thought of that, and then someone bought it out. I mean, like, someone did it. Like, they have these really cool pens, and all of a sudden they're like, I thought of this idea for pens, and then someone launched the idea, exactly the same idea.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of, not that there's no new idea, but it's the choices that we make around, is this idea, am I called with this idea? Am I called to take it out into the world, or do I just want to see it and it become a reality in the world? And it's such an important distinction to make, because we can get caught up in so many ideas that aren't our ideas. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
they're not for us to bring out into the world. I've learned that lesson many times myself. But at the same time, the thing when you're called is so, it's the blood, sweat, and tears. Like I've been in business for 10
Yeah.
years and never once have I wanted to quit. Like I've
Yeah.
said I want to pull back and do things when I have my daughter, like all the things, but
Yeah.
never did I say I don't want to be this anymore. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be this person in the world. I don't want to bring this into the world, and I don't want to help people change to bring their things into the world. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like the determination or something. There's this underlying like vibration of you're in, and you're doing
Yeah.
this now.
Yeah.
So even the thought of not doing it is really, that makes no sense to me. You're in now. You're in now. Okay, so about a little digression, but that's the thing about ideas and abundance. Like we can have an abundance of ideas. It's what we want to do with it. So I want to
Mm.
congratulate you to say
Thank
well done
you.
on bringing your calling out into the world, like that idea of a calling. And I have one more question before we head off, which is, with that calling, how much of it has been related to your abundance journey?
Oh, that's a good question.
And
I
how
mean,
has it related?
so I think there's no separation of it. I think they're almost one and the same, is to like, recognize that life is abundant. And it's easy to do in Bali because it's just in your face every day. Like the spiritual aspect, the nature, just the beauty, the compassion, the heart, the love. And I think, yeah, I think my whole journey from the get-go has been a story of abundance and wanting to recognize the abundance that is already present in my life and really push the envelope as like, how far can we take this?
How
And
has UMIYA integrated into that, like to help you bring
yeah,
it
so
out?
I think when that dropped, when the Unite, Magnetize, Inspire, Awaken dropped into that 5 elements, to know that this is obviously Chinese medicine is a 3,000-year-old practice. I'm not reinventing really anything, but I'm taking more of the spiritual kind of undertones, which are very deep in Chinese medicine, and putting my own personal spin on them to give it a new, like a new light, a new way of looking at it. Obviously, not changing any of the principles or foundations of the medicine, but like adding a layer of that, like creativity and femininity, and how can we look at this in a little bit different way. And UMIYA being, predominantly at least at this point, as an online kind of structure, that I'm able to reach a wider audience. And that when these programs drop, that I can really help to start to shift energetics on the planet, even if it is just one person at a time. Because it doesn't, Gandhi, be the change you seek in the world. It's like
Yeah.
living these principles myself, uniting with my own self, magnetizing the life, realizing how I've done that, tapping into those energies, and like how I'm going to go around the spiral again. And I'm going to inspire others to do the same. And I'm going to use my intuition and that femininity to keep like weaving and keep growing, and then keep awakening other parts of myself. And then the dream will just, it might go back. I might get to a point where it's like, oh, I want to scale back. I want to lean back, as you say. I don't know. We don't know what we don't know. But the journey, yeah, is driven by abundance, I think. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Dude, yeah,
that's what
definitely.
it is.
And the transition to, because you've been a practitioner for a long time, but the transition
Mm-hmm.
to online is about creating even more freedom. Like you live in Bali
Yeah.
and you have a lot of freedom you're still in a, not 9 to 5, but 9 to
Oh
time
no, it's
frame
nine. It's
jobs,
nine to
and
five. Yeah.
yeah, 9 to 5. Yep, yep, yep. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
claiming like transitioning to that online. What tips have you learned, and what tips would you offer our abundance listeners about
Mm,
moving into spaces where they feel like they have more freedom, and also that transition for you? Like you haven't fully made the transition, but even that
hmm.
leap into something new, moving online, how's that for you with launching the business and then now starting to really play in socials in a different way, social media in a different way, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think I'm very grateful that I have a great job that I love, that is in the realm that I'm moving my online business kind of into. It's definitely the online part. I'm not doing card readings and stuff at work, although potentially I could. And some clients that are really into that, I might be like, well, let me do a little reading
Let
for
me
you and
pull
get
you a
back to
card.
you. But so I think I have to recognize first that a lot of people don't have the luxury of having a great job and just like in the spare time, which isn't a lot, but moving more and making that transition. So I would say if that's something they want to do, is just, I think the most important thing when you do anything in your life is like, why do you want to do it? And what is the purpose of you doing that? I think if it's just to make more money, I think forget about it. I think it's gonna probably fizzle. I think if it's about making a bigger impact and sharing your voice and getting your message out there and helping more people or reaching a wider audience to be of service, and then that's really the key. I think some people get lucky. I think they do set out to just, it's strictly about the money and they know that. And the why is the money. That's not been my experience. My experience is really getting clear on why and what I have to offer and how I can best deliver that. And also transition for me to have more of a flexibility in my location so that once I'm online, I'm not complaining about Bali. I love it here, but I would love to go to Bhutan
I
for a
know
few
you
months or
do.
whatever,
Yeah, I was going to say, I know you travel a bit,
Yeah.
going back to Hawaii and back to Canada
Yeah.
for a bit, or anywhere else in the world. Sometimes, yes, you can have a base, but you want to be able to move about. I think
Yeah.
there's different ways that integrating what you love into that. I think a lot of people get caught up in that 9 to 5, and how do you transition out of it into something else? But I think the
Yeah.
key, oh, excuse me, the key here for you, is it that moving, like the fact that you're already in your 9 to 5, you're doing what you essentially love
Well,
already.
yes.
Like, so someone I think for someone who who's doing a job that they're not really loving and they're looking for something else, that's not the transition we're talking about. We're talking about, you've got a tangible business, you're in person, but you're chained to that business in some way, whether it's your business or someone else's, because it's the 9 to 5 aspect and you're in person in the building, as
Right.
opposed to being online, having a lifestyle where you can move that around. Even like you found it, like you already did it on the ship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you essentially said, I don't need to be on land. Like I can be an
Yeah.
acupuncturist, but not on land. So it's essentially doing the same thing, but in the online world. And people might be like, how do you put a needle? You can't put a needle in your arm through online, but you can tell someone to push an pressure point, or there's so many different ways that you can transition.
Yeah. Or eat
The
a certain
skills.
flavor or get a certain formula. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Just in that transition of like you're doing what you love, but moving it to the online space. What do you think was the key? And I know that my coaching with you to shift you into that has supported that transition, and really sometimes a bit of a shove off the cliff, like that's my job. But like really, what was it in you that to create more abundance is saying abundance to you is freedom, abundance to you is having
Yes.
time and space, abundance to you is reaching more people, abundance. Do you know what I mean? That's how these things come about. So it's like, what's your tip with that transition? Because you're still in it and you are transitioning
Yeah.
to the full version where you're no longer in your job and you're doing UMIYA full time, but which is completely okay, and understanding that journey. But how does that land for you? How did it work?
Yeah. I think it was back to that calling and knowing that abundance, and that was the lifestyle that I was after. And also letting go of those constructs that have told us that you need a full work week is 40 hours. Like that's what I work now. And I don't really want to work 40 hours. And I think diving in, I'm a huge fan and follower of the Gene Keys and tapping into like my human design and really getting, as a projector, I know my energy levels like fluctuate, right? These 40-hour work weeks. And I have weeks where I'm like just shattered. It's obviously it still show up, and it's not a terrible, I'm not going to a cubicle. That would just never vibe with me. So I can't really speak to help people in that predicament. But yeah, just learning as much as you can about yourself and knowing that you get to create whatever it is that you want to create. If you want to work 80-hour weeks because that's your jam and you love it and you don't really need to sleep and you just are full in, then great, go for it. If you are like want to lean back like I do and be like, I think like the 20 hours is like really, that would be great to just, we get to choose and we get to dream it into existence. And I don't think it's going to happen overnight. And some people might be, I think there's the stories where it's, I knew it, I quit the job and I just went all in on the online business. For me, that is a bit terrifying and that kind of rattles my nervous system.
I don't know if I talked about this last night or in It's Your Destiny or not, but the night before, about there are people who are like, they need the job and they do it on the side for a while because of there is a terrifying aspect to that. And then there's people who are like me who are just like, let's just do it. Let's just do it. See what happens.
And that's probably in your chart, like in your human design. It's like, that is, look, there might come a time in the future where I'm like, you know what, I just need to just let go of this one to really go full force into that one. But now it's just taking the time I have. I have a schedule where, you know, outside of my 9 to 5 is that, so I'm doing a post in the morning and a post in the evening. On the weekends, I'm like looking into develop programs and work with guests, see clients. I don't have many coaching spaces available at this point in time, just because I am so busy and I want to be very available for the people that are my clients that have hired me as a coach. But it's working really well. That I have a handful each month and they trickle through, and some of them staying, some of them have gotten what they needed and have graduated on. So it's been a really beautiful and continues to be a beautiful transition into the space that then I'll be doing that more full time. I'll have more openings. Obviously, the programs will help. That won't require so much of my personal one-to-one time, but it will still offer
reach more people at the same time. You know, and it's different. Yeah. I know with me, like the conversation about, so I'm starting to expand more and taking on more clients again more because my daughter's about to go to school. So being a solo parent, that was I was very available 6 days a week right up until delivering my daughter. That was my energy, and I had to change that when she was born because I had family, but being the sole provider, being the person, I had to, how am I going to make this work but be there? I didn't have her so that I could not be there.
Right.
So it was very much that energy, and it was lots of things going on at the time, but it was really interesting. I got to a point after about 6 months because I was back working after 3, and I was doing 2 things, like consulting as well as coaching. And so I had to be like, oh, I'm going to pull these energies back. And it's only now she's 4 that I can actually say, okay, 101's back open. Let's go, people. The space, because before that, I was just like, I haven't got the capacity and space. Not that I didn't have capacity, because although mum brain is a real thing, it was more about choices, how much time you have. And so sometimes it's not necessarily about not working because you're still using your energy doing something else. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like, where's your energy and what's your value system at this point in time? And how can we change? What do we need to expand in you to expand to bring more of that abundance in how it looks for you, which is why this podcast is called Your Abundance Journey, because it's every person's abundance journey is different. There is a different nuances. There's different desires of what abundance actually means and how you bring it in.
And I think too, which you reminded me about, because there was times in our calls that we would have where it was like, I was stressing out and it was like, well, like I am not creating this business to be more stressed out. Like my job gives me enough of that. And certain elements of it is, the whole purpose is to be abundantly free and abundantly calm, and just the energetics of the business. I don't want this program to get released, because people will feel if it was like, wow, no, like this is actually
just gonna get it out. Come on. And they're like, what?
Unite with your heart. Come on, chop. Let's do this. No, it's a journey and it takes time. And I really want what I put out there to be really transformational and beautiful. And it's going to take time, even though the ideas and the information, everything is there. It's like, organizing it and branding it and like doing it in the way that is right for me. I'm not saying
Yeah.
this is like everybody else's journey. Some people can just throw things out and it's fine. I really want this to land, and I want the energy to be smooth
And
through
to
the
be
whole
honest,
thing.
like I'm like, because as we know, you've launched your social media in the last week or so, and the beauty of it, I just seeing the beauty in it, and I love that,
Oh,
and I
thank
think
you.
it looks
Thank you.
divine, and everybody has, you can really feel the energy of it, and I noticed that as soon as it came out, I was like, oh my God, what were you worried about? It's just so beautiful. But it was the slowing
Yay.
down. Do you know what I mean? Because you are
Mm,
a lot in hustle. This is what I work with a lot.
yeah.
People are in hustle. We need to move you
Hmm.
into a space where you're just moving at your rhythm, your space, you don't have to rush this. There's no rush.
Yeah.
If you want to rush and just do a leap, yeah, we can quantum leap you straight away. But yeah, if you're wanting
Yeah.
it to, but even that, slowing it down and doing it the way you are is quantum leaping, because I would
Yeah.
say you start how you want to end. And if you start your
Yes.
business in the way you have come out to not live, you will
Right.
literally run into the fire.
So that is huge for me. So I can't thank you enough for
Oh.
your patience and
Yes,
and guidance along the way. So
patience and guidance. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
The art form of coaching of when to know when to shove someone off the cliff and when not to. It's a
Right.
thing, I have to tell you, because if you shove them and they're not ready, but they're also, some people are like, hello, like you've been
Hmm.
sitting on the cliff for a good year. What the hell? We need to
Yeah,
go.
sure.
But I always ask
Yeah.
permission. Are you giving me permission to shove you off cliffs this year? And they're like, yes. And
Yeah.
I've got another client, she's at the start of this year, she was like, I want you to just tell me. And I'm like, well, okay, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, you give me permission. That's what's happening. Anyway, she
Yeah.
launched her business this week as well. And I was like,
Oh, great.
she goes, thanks for shoving me
Ooh.
off so many cliffs this last 6 months. I'm
Yeah.
like, do this, do that. Have you done
Yeah.
this? And then other times it's like a beautiful dance. Like I have other clients they've been in their business and hustling, and they're doing their other job and hustling, and because they didn't start in that energy. So
Mm,
unentangling those things, so then they can come up with like, oh, this is how I want to call in my clients, and this is how I want to
yeah.
feel in the energy, because it's very different when how you approach it and how you want to feel,
Hmm.
which is the whole point of abundance, is how we feel a lot of the
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
So let's just tell the audience where they can find you. How can they find you and connect with you, Kimberly?
Yeah. So probably the best is to follow my Instagram account
I
is
will put
at,
it in the
yeah,
links.
at women. And
Mhm.
then my website as well is the same thing, but no underscore. So just www.umiyawomen.com.
I will put the link in below, and then they
Thank
can
you.
connect with you there.
Yay.
Yes, it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing for you. And I'm wishing you the greatest abundance.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so exciting, really.
And thank you for joining me today on the podcast. If anyone has any questions, feel free to, you can DM myself or Kimberly, and
Hmm.
we will answer them, and we will help you out. And we will put the links below for everybody. And as always, here's to your abundance. And thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, make sure that you join us in the Your Abundance Podcast Facebook group, where you can continue the conversation, or you may just want to drop into our DMs and let us know how it landed for you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Much appreciated. And I will speak to
Thank
you. I
you.
always say, see you. Thank you, Kimberly, very much. And I look forward to
Pleasure.
speaking. I would say seeing you all soon, but I say speaking at the same time. Have a good one. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.